Lila and Adrian stared at each other, neither of them saying a word. Lila's eyes moved around the room while she searched for the words to say what she wanted to say to him. Noticing this, Adrian smiled. "Lila," he asked. Lila took a deep breath and sighed as she looked at Adrian. "What are your plans for this afternoon?" she asked. "This afternoon?" Adrian said. "I have my fencing class." "Can I join you?" "Of course," Adrian said. "But why?" A dark scowl came over Lila's face. "Marinette forged my handwriting on some stupid student council volunteer sheet," she said glumly. "And now I'm indentured to help out on a bunch of shit I didn't sign up for." Adrian's eyes widened. "You can join me, Lila," he said. "I'll have my father tell Madame Bustier that you're there at his request. He'll be glad to help you out." Gabrielle Agresti, happy to help Lila out? She severely doubted that, but she only put up a happy smile at Adrian. "Thank you," she said. "I'll appreciate that." "See you this afternoon," Adrian said cheerily. Lila waved and left. Adrian closed his locker door before turning to slam the one next to him shut as well. Nino jumped back, his nose just an inch shy of being caught. "What the hell, dude?" Nino exclaimed. Adrian leaned against the lockers. "Have you heard?" he asked casually. "Lila just got her time wasted by a piece of paper." "What?" Nino said. "I have nothing to do with that." "You sure?" Adrian asked. "I have no idea what you're talking about," Nino asserted. You. Adrian tilted his head. "You all right, Nino?" he asked. "You're looking a bit unsteady there." "Huh? Am I all right?" Nino demanded. "You're the one who almost slammed my locker door close on my face, and now you're standing there, staring at me like you want me dead." Adrian frowned. "What do you mean?" he asked. "I didn't slam your locker door, you did." Nino was flabbergasted. "What are you talking about? You were the one who slammed my locker door shut." Why would I?" "We were just talking," Adrian said earnestly. "And then, all of a sudden, you just slammed your door shut. It made such a loud noise, it surprised me." "Hey, Nino." Adrian leaned in close to put a hand on Nino's arm, gazing sincerely into his eyes. "You have been a little tense lately. You know I'm here if you want to talk about anything, right?" Nino was so confused. He was also completely sure that he wasn't the one to slam his locker door shut. But seeing an opportunity to capitalize on Adrian's sudden goodwill. "You sure?" Nino asked, fighting the urge to fiddle with the hem of his jacket. "You're not mad about what happened at Luca and Julika's place?" Adrian's brows furrowed. "No," he said. "Why would I be mad? I should be apologizing, Lila, and me leaving after only an hour after you all took the effort to throw such an awesome party." "What?" Nino said, seriously concerned. "No, dude, stop it. You don't remember what happened." "Did something happen?" Adrian asked. "The worst thing I remember was having to see Kim's dancing." Adrian laughed, throwing his head back. Nino didn't join in. "Come on," Adrian said, chuckling, wiping a tear away from his eyes. "Let's get to class, the belling's ringing." Adrian left for the door of the locker room, leaving a confused and concerned Nino behind. "Are you sure?" Alia asked dubiously. "Yes, I'm sure," Nino said. Adrian doesn't remember a thing about the party or the conversation. His voice echoed in the vast darkness. Beneath the school in the boiler room, the class of Madame Bustiers, apart from Adrian and Lila, gathered around the old metal desk, listening to Nino tell his story. "It doesn't make sense," Nino said, frustrated. "It's like Adrian had undergone a complete 180 since Lila came. His mood and personality all changed. And now, Lila wants nothing to do with us either. All she does is hang around with Adrian. She's a bad influence for him." "Julika," Marinette asked. "How's Luca?" "He's feeling a lot better now," Julika said. "But he asked for us to not bring Lila back on the boat." "That's not good," Kim said, shaking his head. I've never seen anyone rattle Luca before. This girl is seriously bad news. Oh, no, Jalika said, shaking her head. That's not it. He does plan on confronting Lila again, but he needs time to formulate a plan. He wants to be more prepared for her next time. He's onto something now, but I don't know what he's planning. Yo, Marinette, Nino suddenly called out. Marinette turned to him. Yeah? I overheard Lila and Adrian talking earlier. Did you forge Lila's handwriting and sign her up for volunteer work? Everyone looked to Marinette. Marinette flushed. And no, she stuttered. I would never do that. Alia narrowed her eyes at Marinette, recognizing her best friend's little tells, her horrible acting. Really? Nino said. So, Lila was lying to Adrian? Marinette nodded eagerly. That must be it, she insisted. I wouldn't do something so horrible. But why would Lila sign up for that? Mylene asked. She doesn't really strike me as the kind of girl that participate in school spirit. Me neither, Rose said. Don't you have to work in teams for those? Lila hates socializing. Can you imagine her knocking on doors and trying to garner interest in attending bake sales? Kim cackled. She'll rather punch old ladies in the face. Marinette backed away as the class fell into a fervent discussion on what Lila would and would not do. No one noticed her leave, no one apart from Alia. Stealthily breaking away from the group, Alia followed Marinette's shadow up the stairs and caught up with her. Hey, she said, laying a hand on Marinette's shoulder. Girl, are you okay? Yeah, Marinette said. I'm fine. I'm just really worried. Girl, Alia said, giving Marinette a hug. We all are. But don't worry. We'll get our sunshine boy back. Marinette gave a small smile. Alia was right, of course. She will get the boy she loved back. But she just needed to get rid of her first. When the school bell rang for the end of day, Madame Bastier's classroom was filled with fumbling students, all standing up, reaching for their bags, talking. Adrian was the first to get out of his seat, by virtue of being extremely neat. It took him mere seconds to gather all his belongings into his satchel. Lila was waiting for him at the top row as he approached. Adrian held out his hand. She took it, and the two of them walked down the stairs together. Oh, Lila! Madame Bastier suddenly exclaimed as they were almost at the door. Adrian told me today that his father asked for your help with something after school? Yes, Lila said. That's right. Madame Bastier, I still don't understand how my name ended up on the sign-up sheet in the first place. I didn't put it there. Madame Bastier tutade. Once you sign up for something, you have to commit to it, she said. I'll let you go today, but remember to plan around your afternoons in the future, all right? Marinette could really use your help with all the work she does. Madame Bastier, Adrian said. His voice was sharp and low, coming out almost like a growl. Those who are still left in the class looked to him in surprise at the animalistic tone. Yes, Adrian? Madame Bastier said. If Marinette needs help, why can't Alia help her? He asked. Isn't she her deputy? Well, Alia's busy sometimes too, Madame Bastier explained patiently. As a class, we all need to chip in. Lila didn't sign up for volunteer work, Adrian said. She's busy as well. Her name is on the... Did you see her signing it? Adrian interrupted. She did, Madame Bastier said. Marinette told me so herself. Did you see Lila signing the sheet yourself? Adrian demanded. Have you ever seen Lila near Marinette? Madame Bastier opened her mouth, then closed it, her brow furrowing in thought. No, Adrian concluded. You didn't. So, how can you know? What we know is that Lila definitely didn't sign up. So, either some prankster forged her name or Marinette lied. Well, there is no need for such accusations, Madame Bastier said, aghast. How could you, Adrian? You know that Marinette would never lie. Well, either someone stole the sheet from her to prank another student, Adrian said. Or she did, as it appears. Lila has something to do this afternoon and Alia can actually do her job for once. Bye. With that, Adrian pulled Lila out of the classroom. Marinette sat at her default desk in art class, painting a poster promoting the upcoming school event next week. She was alone in the class, thus it was quite peaceful. She looked at the sound of the door opening and stiffened when she saw who entered. "Hello, Chloe," Marinette said, stealing her nerves. "Depanchen," Chloe said, by way of greeting. She crossed the room and stood over Marinette, cocking her weight on one hip. "So, what's this about?" Marinette took a deep breath. Ticky's disapproving eyes were scorched in her brain, but she managed to draw a curtain over it. "Right, point of no return." "It's about Adrian," she started. Chloe said, instantly understanding. "You called me here because you want to get rid of the ugly girl." "I wouldn't call her ugly," Marinette said weakly. "Spare me the sentiments," Chloe scoffed, settling down in the seat across from Marinette. "You're here hatching plans with your worst enemy. You don't have a moral leg to stand on." "Lucky for you, I want her gone too." "But how are we going to do this?" "In case you haven't gotten the memo, Adrian is attached to her like a baby to its pacifier." "I got a text from Rose earlier asking if I had forged Lila's handwriting," Marinette said. "You didn't, but Sabrina did," Chloe said. "So, what's your next move?" "We have an important school event next week," Marinette said. "I need Lila to be there. And I know she wouldn't come unless Adrian asks her." "So," Marinette shifted through her folder, gathering up her papers. She stood up and walked over to Chloe's side. "I need you to bring the centerpiece. I need you to provide something very special and important that everyone will love. Then, I will set a trap for Lila. I will make it appear so that she was caught in the act of destroying it, thus getting her expelled." Chloe hummed. "Something important, huh?" she said. "That everyone will love." Marinette was relieved to see that Chloe doesn't appear stumped. "All right, I think I got just the thing for that. I'll bring it." Chloe stood up and made to leave without a farewell. "How's Sabrina?" Marinette blurted out. Chloe stopped. "She's fine," she said, looking around her shoulder. "I told her how she got akumatized, but she doesn't remember anything. Not even being in the principal's office." "Really?" Marinette exclaimed. Are you sure?" Chloe's nose wrinkled. "I can tell when Sabrina is lying to me," she said loftily. "She truly has no clue." "I don't know what's up with that either." Marinette was uneasy. Memory loss was common for akuma victims, but losing memory of the traumatic incident that caused their akumatization in the first place? For any other victim, Marinette could easily chalk it down to stress. After all, it's normal for people to lose memories due to tension. But in this case, Lila was involved, and Marinette can't pretend there's not something unusual about how Lila interact with akumas anymore. "I have to go," Chloe said. "You get everything ready for the plan, and I'll just bring the centerpiece. All right?" Marinette snapped out of her contemplation. "Yes," she said, nodding. "Good luck." Chloe scoffed. "I don't need it," she said, then left. "Marinette," an unhappy voice called as the door of the art room swung shut. Marinette looked down to see Tiki poking her head out of her purse disapprovingly. She doesn't have to say anything. Marinette immediately started defending herself, pointing out all the logical reasons why she's right to do this. "I have to protect my friends, Tiki," she argued. "I can't let them get hurt. I'm still doing Ladybug's work, just as Marinette." "Are you sure you're not just doing this because of Adrian?" Tiki demanded. She flew out of Marinette's purse and looked her holder in the eye. This is partially about him," Marinette said. "But only because he's my friend too. Tiki, Lila is not our friend. Master Fu is right. She has an amazing ability, but I don't think she intends on using it to help Paris. This is serious. As long as she's at Francoise Dupont, Hawk Moth will continue to target her, and that'll place everyone, teachers, students, staff, all in danger." "I know," Tiki said. "But Trying to get her expelled? Isn't that too much? As Ladybug, shouldn't you be trying to help Lila rather than remove her from the situation? Lila have to go to school, too. Where else would she go? Would you rather she end up at another school on the other side of the city, or stay right here where you can keep an eye on her? Marinette blew her bangs away from her forehead in frustration. Haven't you seen what she's done? She demanded of Tiki. She forced Chloe to deaccumatize herself. She casted some weird spell on Sabrina that completely eradicated her memory. Sure, maybe it's better that she's here so that I can keep an eye on her, but I can't put my friends in the line of fire for that. Tiki looked away. There's something she hadn't told Marinette yet, and she usually shared everything with her holder. But Tiki doesn't want to believe that this was all happening again. In truth, Lila's powers are quite familiar to Tiki, and with each new confirmation of Lila's abilities, the dread in Tiki grew and grew. She doesn't want what happened to Waze happen again to him or any of the other Kwami. Nura must still hurt from the flames, even though it had been years and years. Tiki had last seen that ability before either Marinette or Fu was born, and while the stories had been passed down by word of mouth, over the generations, they had transformed into myth. Tiki was sure that even if Fu had made a connection, he had dismissed it as a simple coincidence. Tiki? Marinette asked. Her Kwami had been floating there, eyes all misty, for an uncomfortable long time. Tiki, are you okay? Tiki sighed and looked back at Marinette. Marinette blinked. Tiki suddenly looked tired. And although Marinette knew that Tiki was millennia, possibly millions of years old, she always appeared so childlike, pixie-ish, with bright eyes and a never-daunting wonder. Now, Marinette was seeing Tiki's long age in their face for the first time. I'll tell you later, Marinette, Tiki said glumly. Regarding your plan, I can't tell you what to do or what not to do. You might choose to go through with it regardless of what I say. But I want you to think about the consequences thoroughly. Not only as Ladybug, but think through it as Marinette, ordinary girl, and Lila's classmate. All right? Marinette nodded, but it was an empty nod. Usually, she would heed Tiki's words better, but when it came to Lila, Marinette's mind was so muddled and corrupted by her emotions, she couldn't even manifest the consequences. All Marinette could think of was everything she would gain. Tiki saw this comprehension in Marinette's eyes and flew back into her bag without a single further word. Marinette walked out of the art room with the dried poster for the event tucked under her arm. It was a rushed job and Marinette had been rather distracted while she painted, but the final product still looked quite good. Marinette guessed that you can take the artist out of her comfort zone, but you can take the artistry out of her. Marinette suddenly gasped as two figures rushed by her. One dressed in white fencing gear and the other the scarlet red. They dueled down the hallway, almost slicing off Marinette's nose as they fought from room to room. What the? Out of the way, a pompous voice bellowed, and Marinette shrunk against the wall again to see Monsieur d'Argencourt, the fencing instructor, racing after the two fencers with a crowd of students following. Marinette's stomach tightened when she realized Lila was part of this crowd, although she looked more bemused while everyone else appeared apprehensive. What's going on? She asked randomly to the student nearest her. The student eagerly pointed ahead. Some random fencer interrupted their training and challenged Adrien, she said. I think she wants to take his title as the best fencer in Monsieur d'Argencourt's class. Marinette gasped. Someone was challenging Adrien? She rushed after them, pushing through students to get to the front. They had fought their way to the library. Marinette doesn't know much about fencing, but from what she could see, they appeared evenly matched. Staying a fair distance away from the other and fending off the opponent's strikes with grace and agility. Focus. Monsieur d'Argencourt was yelling at Adrien, the white-clad figure currently on defense. Marinette was starting to notice a difference. The red challenger, although slimmer and shorter, was far more aggressive than he was. Monsieur d'Argencourt punched the air before him. Show the might of the d'Argencourt class, HH. Students screamed and ducked out of the way as a book trolley was sent flying toward them. Marinette gulped and swerved, managing to avoid d'Argencourt's fate. He couldn't escape fast enough and was smacked by the trolley head-on, sprawling to the floor with a groan. Marinette looked up just in time to catch the final moments of the match. Adrian stepped forward, the red fencer stepped forward, and both of their swords struck the other's body. "Match," Adrian called, and stepped back angrily. He pulled off his helmet as Lila calmly moved beside him. She had managed to avoid being hit by the book trolley as well, Marinette sourly noted, while most of the crowd had been sent scattered like bowling pins. "Are you satisfied?" "Not yet," the mysterious fencer replied. Their deep voice was muffled by their helmet. "Who was that? Who won?" "Yes," D'Argencourt groaned, pushing himself to his knees. He looked around the room blearily before his eyes landed on Lila. "You," he pointed at her. "Did you see? Who won?" Lila looked coldly at D'Argencourt, who faltered. "How am I supposed to know?" Lila demanded. "I don't know anything about fencing. Didn't you both lose the moment you stepped off the court?" "Not exactly," the mysterious fencer said, stepping forward. "Adrian agreed to the improvised rules of our game. The victor of the match is determined by who landed a hit on the other's body first." Lila eyed the mysterious fencer. "And you are?"
Kagami, the fencer said, taking off her helmet. Marinette gasped. Tsurugi Kagami.
Kagami was beautiful, with a sleek bob of raven blue hair and clear, chocolate brown eyes. "Kagami," Lila said. "Well, in that case, I think the match was a tie. You both hit each other at the same time." "Why, yeah," another student said, having flattened themselves to the library door. He shakingly collected himself. "I was watching the whole time too. The match is a draw." Kagami's eyebrows knitted. "That's impossible," she said angrily. "Ties are very, very rare in fencing. One of us must have been faster, even by a millisecond." "Did anyone else see who won?" she demanded of the gathering crowd. "Adrian did," Marinette said, and swallowed as everyone turned to her. Kagami looked at her with disbelieving eyes. She cleared her throat and spoke louder. "Adrian did. He was faster." Kagami breathed heavily, chest rising up and down. She tried to remain calm, but Marinette could see how stricken she was, and Marinette tried not to feel bad. "No, that can't be right," Kagami demanded. "Are you sure? Who are you anyway? I didn't see you with us in the beginning." "No, I ran into your match in the hallway." Kagami pointed the end of her sword to Marinette. "So you're an outsider," she said triumphantly. "You didn't see anything properly." A wave of anger washed through Marinette. "I saw what mattered," she snapped. "I saw the moment Adrian struck first. Isn't that what's important? Lila doesn't even know the rules of fencing, and you're taking her words seriously." "Who's Lila?" D'Argencourt asked. "Her," Marinette snapped, pointing at Lila, who looked exasperated by everything, her arms folded. Kagami glared back at Lila. "Why do you look familiar?" she asked. "I thought your face rang a bell, and your name does too." Kagami blinked, suddenly enlightened. "You're the girl who fought the Akuma last week." Yeah," Lila said. "That's me. What's it to you?" "A real fighter." Kagami breathed. Her grip suddenly readjusted on her sword. "I should have fought you instead." Whoa, Lila said, holding her hands up. "First off, I still don't know anything about fencing. Second, that Akuma was attacking me. I was simply defending myself." "So, you'll defend yourself again if I come at you?" Kagami asked, readying her stance. She placed her helmet back on. "Then, prepare yourself." The easy placation dropped off Lila's face. Her expression suddenly turned stony, and she looked at Kagami with an unreadable emotion. Adrian, however, smiled after scanning Lila's reaction. "You got this," he said, startling Marinette and the rest of the crowd judging by their gasps, by handing Lila his sword. "It's pretty simple. Avoid the head and legs. Aim only for the body. Use the tip of the foil and not the side. The first person to land a hit wins. I believe in you, Lila." Lila blinks, cheek suddenly flushing. Why does that feel so familiar? Watching the scene, Marinette bit her lips so hard the flesh turned white. She had thought about joining the fencing club before to get closer to Adrien, but simply had no time. Lila seemed to be taking every spot Marinette could have filled. Fine, Lila said. If you want to fight, you'll get a fight. Monsieur d'Argencourt, can you watch over our match? Properly this time? Of course, d'Argencourt said. Everyone, back down the stairs. The crowd picked themselves off the ground and funneled in a neat parade out of the library, Lila and Kagami leading. Marinette fidgeted. Adrien wasn't moving, and so, neither did she want to. She tried to think up of something she could say to him to dissuade him from the strange behavior he had been displaying. When they are finally alone, however, he spoke first. Marinette? Marinette faced Adrien, who was suddenly very close to her, who looked down at her from his taller height. His beautiful, green, almost cat-like eyes boring down at her. Why yes. The slap came out of nowhere. Marinette didn't see hand coming until she heard the crack. She stood there plainly in shock, until her cheek started to burn and she clutched at it. What? What the hell is wrong with you? Adrien snapped, his rage overwhelming. Marinette cringed. Why are you forging Lila's name? What are you planning? Plan? I'm not planning anything. Marinette cried. I'm just trying to help Lila make more friends, and I do need some help with my class president duties. Can't you find someone else to help you? Someone willing? Adrien demanded. Leave Lila alone. And I swear to God, if you ever hurt Lila in any shape or form, I will make your life hell. Marinette took several steps back, almost crashing into the wall behind her, still clutching at her cheek. Her heart was thundering. This wasn't Adrien. This creature of pure malice staring at her with such hatred. This wasn't the sweet, kind boy she had fallen in love with. And was it Marinette's fear or was Adrien's visage transforming? The green of his eyes, the color that Marinette had memorized and seen in his dreams, morphing into blue in one eye and brown in the other. Light blazed around the crown of her head and Marinette's eyes widened as the glow solidified into a pointed halo. I know you're planning something, Adrien hissed. Little Miss Busybody, always tinkering with some project or the other. This is your final warning. Stay away from Lila or... He doesn't have to clarify the threat. Marinette nodded frantically. Good, Adrien said. As long as I've made myself clear. Adrien closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, they were as green as ever. The halo was gone and he was smiling, back to the soft, happy boy Marinette knew. She could almost be convinced that everything that happened was a cruel hallucination, if her cheek wasn't still burning. Great, talking with you, Adrien said cheerily, waving a hand over his shoulder as he left. Got to go, see you, Marinette. Marinette stood there in silence. Marinette? Tiki demanded, flying out of her purse almost immediately. What was that? What happened? Did he hit you? She has to go, Marinette whispered. What? Tears are stinging Marinette's eyes, both from the force of Adrien's slap and her culminating anger. She wiped at them perfunctorily before pulling her phone out of her pocket. Marinette can't do this alone anymore. She has to call for help. Waze had been around for longer than most human civilizations. He had traveled through the Earth as it underwent its many revolutions, discoveries, conflict, and tragedies. He had looked the death of the universe in its eye and survived apocalypses. He believed that he had been through all the experiences life could offer and had no more surprises left to witness. But this was an anomaly that betrayed all of his expectations. The spirit inhabiting Adrien's body was a soul he had hoped he would never sense again. Not after the incident. The calamity of such power, it nearly killed an immortal being such as him. Waze tried to sense others, but it was as if a blockade continued to purposely taunt him. Could it be? Waze muttered and shook his head. It was impossible, no matter what his instincts are telling him. Plag watched as Adrian texted Lila nonstop. When he was with her, Adrian wanted to do nothing but talk to her. When there apparently, Adrian kept talking to her anyway. Plag looked up when Adrian suddenly sat up in bed. "Where are you going?" Plag asked as he stood up and stretched. "Natalie texted me," Adrian said dully. "I'm going to see what she needs." Plag frowned. Natalie had always come directly to Adrian with a new contract to sign or more homework to do. It was never the other way around. "Kid," Plag said. "I'll be back," Adrian said. He left the room and closed the door behind him. Plag flew up, planning on following him. "Plag." Plag stopped and looked around, then tilted his head. "Ways," he said. "I wasn't expecting this. What's the big idea?" "I'm sorry to bother you," Wei said, his pensive voice echoing in Plag's head. "But I need to ask some questions." "Go." "Can you tell me when Lila and Adrian first met?" Plag hummed. "Just 2 weeks ago," he said. "On Monday at their school, before class started. It was a real meet-cute. She dropped something on the floor, he picked it up and tried to give it back to her, and she yelled at him to leave her alone. That's how his obsession with her was triggered. For some reason, he can't get enough of her now." "She was mean to him?" "Yeah." "Are they friends now?" Plag scoffed. "Hardly," he said. "Their relationship is still very one-sided. He's throwing himself at her and she's barely tolerating him. He knows this, but continues to pant after her like a lovesick puppy." Wei said nothing in reply, but Plag flinched in irritation at the contemplative influx of consideration and apprehension from him. "Hey, cool it," Plag barked. "Aren't you being a tad paranoid?" "My apologies," Wei said. Do you really think there might be another spirit inside Lila?" "I have no experience with the world of the soul realm," Wei's replied. "But this feels similar to what happened back then." "Well," Plag said, "let's hope your intuition is wrong for once." Plag perked up. Noise outside in the corridor, 2 set of footsteps and 2 voices were approaching. Adrian and Lila. "I have to go." "Hold on." The telepathic link between them snapped off in an instant, and on the other side of Paris, in Master Fu's parlor, Wei sighed. There was a possibility that Adrian's strange behavior was linked with Lila. Lila must have a spirit in her body that was fully aware of everything that was happening around her. Plag managed to duck into his favorite trophy just as Adrian opened the bedroom door. Lila walked in, wearing a loose cardigan and ribbed tank top. She sat on Adrian's bed, bouncing slightly, as Adrian closed his door and stood before her. "So," he asked with a slight smile, "what's the super important thing you had to talk about?" Lila took a deep breath. "Adrian," she said, "you have been acting super weird recently, and I don't like it." Adrian's smile traded for a frown, but he only nodded, not saying anything. "I don't know what kind of relationship we have, but we need to get some kind of stability and definition in her." Adrian tilted his head. "Adrian," Lila said, "will you be my best friend?" Adrian brightened up. "Of course." Adrian squeezed Lila into a huge hug. "Yes, it's all I ever wanted." Lila laughed, hugging back before wincing. "Adrian, let go. You're hurting me." Adrian let go. "Nicknames," he declared. "What?" Lila said. "We should have nicknames for each other now that we are best friends," he insisted. Lila hummed. "Okay, well, how are Rin? For you? Or Ad?" "Ad," Adrian decided. "I like that. And how about I call you, Lily?" "I'm good with that," Lila said. Adrian blushed. Lila stood up. "Well, best friend," she said. "If that's all over, I have something else I need your help with." She patted at her purse. "The gift you gave me when we went to Luca's party the other day, I can't find it anywhere. I think I may have left it on the boat, and I don't want to go back there alone." "I'll go with you," Adrian agreed immediately. "It's a small boat. They should have found it by now." He held out his hand and Lila took it as they both walked out of the room. Luca was meditating on his bed, taking slow breaths inside and out. A clatter on the stair caught his attention. He opened his eyes to see Adrian and Lila descending, Jalika following sheepishly after them. Immediately, Luca's nerves strained, but he held himself well. Having faced Lila once, he knew what he had to do to keep control of himself. "Hi," he said, getting off the bed. "What's with the sudden visit?" Jalika cleared her throat as Adrian was looking around the room curiously. "They're looking for something Lila dropped the last time she was here." "A gift box." "A gift box," Luca echoed. "Sorry, we haven't seen anything like that." "Are you sure?" Adrian asked. Had a bow on it about the size. He demonstrated the dimensions with his fingers. "Sorry," Luca repeated, shaking his head. Lila sighed. "There's nowhere else it could have been. Someone must have taken it then. I wonder." "Who?" Adrian looked at Lila, then turned to Luca. "Hey," Adrian said. "Do you want to join your friend group?" Luca blinked as Jalika's eyes went wide. "Really?" Luca asked. "Yeah," Lila agreed. "Me and Adrian are officially friends and we could use a few more members. You don't have to say yes right away, but think about it." Luca thought about it. "You guys got nicknames?" he asked. Adrian and Lila nodded. "For me too," Luca asked. "What have you been calling me?" He looked at Lila. Lila said. "Well, I have been calling you dipshit in my head." Luca grinned. "I'm in," he said. "As long as I get to call you asshole." "Fair," Lila said. She and Adrian glowed bright with joy. "What?" Jalika shrieked. "Do you have another member, or is it just the two of you?" "There's a girl called Kagami," Lila said. "She just came to Paris, quite good at fencing, although not good enough. She lost to me and she asked if she could be our friend." Lila shrugged. "That's good," Luca said. "Four is a pretty square number." "She's up there waiting for us now if you want to meet her," Adrian said. "I have nothing to do for the rest of the day," Luca said. "I might as well join you guys and see what kind of weird-ass friend group I found myself in." The three of them walked up the stairs, leaving Jalika behind. She looked after her twin, confused. "He got her to open up," Jalika muttered. "That throws our planning out the window." "I'm happy to meet you, Luca," Kagami said, shaking Luca's hand with a big smile. "It's brilliant to have another friend." "Close your mouth a little," Luca suggested, and Kagami did as he asked. "Soften your lips." "Great. Now, you don't look like a serial killer." "It's the four of us now?" Kagami asked Lila. "Yes," Lila said. "The gang's all here." "Wonderful," Kagami said. "So, how are we doing this?" "We can get started by talking," Lila said. "Get to know each other, our likes and dislikes." "We should plan an outing this weekend," Adrian said. Kagami smiled again, in the way Luca taught her. "Sounds great." "Fun," Luca agreed. Lila rubbed the back of her head. It's been a long time since she had a friend group like this. It'll be beneficial, especially for whatever Marinette has planned. Marinette wanted Lila gone. Lila was sure of it. "I hate it." "I know. We can get into so much fucking trouble." "I know. But," Alia said, "if it's to save Adrian and get everything back to normal, I'll help out. The others will, too." Marinette sighed in relief. "Thank you, Alia." "Thank me if we succeed in this," Alia said. Her phone rang, and Alia picked it up. "Hey, Jalika?" Alia frowned. "What?" Marinette watched in worry as Alia turned to her with a flabbergasted expression. "Adrian did it. He and Lila are officially friends now," Alia exclaimed. "What?" Marinette cried. No, no, no. This can't be happening." Marinette fumbled for her own phone. "I have to call everyone now. We have to enact the plan. Now, we can't wait anymore." Alia hung up on Jalika. So, what's the plan now? Things just got a lot more difficult. We are still going to get rid of her, Marinette promised. Definitely, but we have to add some extra steps to the plan now. But, I promise you, she'll be gone by the end of the event next week. Waze believed that was it. He went through the rest of the day without issue and was sleeping when he heard the voice. Waking up, flying out of the gramophone, he flew through the streets of Paris following the trail of harmonization. At last, he arrived in a place full of singing and souls, Waze gasped. How did he suddenly get here? He twisted around, but could see no indication of how he had entered this place. He heard a voice with a calming tone and followed it. It was another Kwame, one Waze had never seen before. 2,300, she was counting. 2,301. 2,302. 2,303. She hummed and pulled a piece of paper out of nowhere. She was a turtle like Waze, but for the sea instead of the land. She had a pure white and light blue body, beautiful. The shell on her back carried a soul. She had 5 antennae, 2 that flowed down her back and 2 that draped around her shoulders, the last one curled over her head. She moved past Waze as if she doesn't see him. Are you done yet? Waze looked at the almost familiar voice near him and startled. Suhan? Hello, Waze, Suhan said, turning to him. Nice to see you again. Suhan had died a long time again, yet he was standing right in front of Waze. How is this possible? Suhan, it takes a long time to count souls, the white turtle Kwame said. For you, it'll take forever. She went along more of the white soul, counting them one by one. Then, she moved back towards Suhan and with a jewel of some kind in her hand. Here. She handed Suhan the jewel. You passed your count quota, and you've gone a little over it, but what's wrong with that? She flew ahead, followed by Suhan and Waze. Go see Amber, she said. And she'll approve your rebirth. Suhan nodded. Thank you, Kokoro. You're welcome. Go, now, I have this one to speak to. Suhan disappeared in the blankness as Kokoro approached Waze. Amber? Waze said. Yes, my creator, Kokoro said. Now, let me answer the questions I know that are burning in your skull before I kick you out and wipe your memory. Waze was shocked. For one, you were never meant to be here. Suhan accidentally left the door open. Kokoro nodded her head in the direction Suhan has gone in, allowing you to wander in. Waze opened his mouth, but no words could come out. 2. Kokoro continued. There are 2 spirit in your, one in a soulless body and the other with half a soul. Waze's eyes widened. So, he was right. Although. What do you mean half a soul? He demanded. Kokoro doesn't answer, too busy pulling up more paper. Let me see how she's doing. Kokoro said to herself. Oh! She's doing very well. Amber will be pleased. I think it's time to teach her how to make her own Kwame. She checked another paperwork. And, note to self, never bring a love-crazed boy into a body with half a soul. It results in problems. Hey, Wei said. Baby, Poppy, Kokoro said, without looking at him. Please send Waze out. Give him the forget-me-not potion, please. A huge figure suddenly appeared behind Waze and grabbed him before he could run. A smaller figure came too, holding a bottle of clear liquid. The bottle was poured down Waze's throat and Waze fell unconscious. Thank you, my dears, Kokoro said. Baby and Poppy left, intent on setting Waze back where he was. Kokoro left the soul room, heading up and approaching an ocean blue door. She knocked. Come in, a feminine voice beckoned. Kokoro opened the door and smiled. Good news, Your Majesty. Layla is doing well. Before the next restart cycle, we will have both Gabriel and Nuru souls. How wonderful. The woman sitting in the room was wearing a sea green mandarin collar top and white pants. She walked over to her Kwame. I think it's time to see her. Don't you think so, Kokoro? I think it's time, Your Majesty, Kokoro replied. Layla will be able to create more of me very soon. The news just get more exciting, Amber said. I'd better get my books too while we're at it. The train pulled up to Paris in early dawn. Most of the sky was still midnight blue, but peaks of the sun's golden light began to show over the horizon. A young woman, no older than 17, stepped off the train. Her sea-green dress blew in the wind, ruffling her long black hair. Her lifeless, soulless eyes took in the sights around as she adjusted her sun hat. She smiled then, showing red lips as she skipped off the train. I'll be back in 3 weeks, she called to the creature with red glowing eyes left in the train carriage. The creature nodded as the door slid shut and the train moved back into the unknown. The woman looked around before snapping her finger. A small creature emerged from the ground, flying obediently to her. Keep an eye out on wandering souls that have yet to cross over, the woman instructed. The little creature nodded, flying away. Now, the woman said to herself, where is the nearest hotel? A knock rapped on Gabriel's office door. Not now, he snapped, without removing his eyes from his desk. Natalie sighed before opening the door. Sir, it's quite late now. It's time for bed. Gabriel glared at her, but Natalie stood firm and strong. Any news on the miraculous? He asked. Nuru said that the brooch will be ready to use next week. Next week, Gabriel said. That's far too long away. The miraculous is still boiling the water, Natalie snapped. It's cooled down but nowhere near enough. And, need I remind you, it is a terrible idea to akumatize Lila Rossi. She will do to you what she did to Black Rose. Natalie hoped that Gabriel would see reason. But to her disappointment, the man laughed. Not if I do the same thing to her first. Sir. Natalie, this is war between me and Ladybug and Chat Noir. My goal is to bring my beloved wife back to me, a goal I will achieve by any means, and Lila may just be the key to that, Gabriel said. But if Lila Rossi proves to be too much trouble, I will not hesitate to smack her down. Are you willing to kill yourself for this one goal? Believe me, Natalie, Gabriel said. I have considered the ramifications many times. I've stayed alive and tried to abstain from the lure of the miraculous for Adrian, because that is what she would have wanted. But I want her back. I'm willing to do anything it'll take to get her back, even if it gets me killed, get Nura killed. Well, Natalie said, helpless. I suppose there's nothing more I can do than help you. Thank you, Natalie, Gabriel said. If I do die, take good care of Adrian for me. Natalie nodded and closed the office door.